Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the P. Carroll Sport Podcast. Paul Carroll here, and we are on the Monday after the first round of games in the Tipperary Hurling Championships. And over the course of this podcast, we're going to talk about all the games that happened in the Senior, Premier Intermediate, and the Intermediate grade as well. I'll give as much detail as I can about all the games. We'll run down through my thoughts and just kind of an overall review of the first round of the Tipperary Senior, Premier Intermediate and Intermediate Hurling Championships. Really, really good weekend of games, loads to get through, so we'll get into it in just a second. A few things to mention before we start. First of all, just a huge thanks to everyone for tuning in to the preview podcast. The podcast is doing just incredibly well considering, let's say, last year, the views and listens and everything is way up from where it was last year by, a couple of 100% kind of thing. So it's class to see that people are enjoying it and tuning in. And I'll try and I'll stick at it, and hopefully you take something of note anyway from the next maybe 45 minutes or however long this podcast is going to go on. What time we now? We're 6:30 on Monday evening as I'm recording this. I want to kind of wrap it up anyway within an hour because there's a minor match over in Kilcoman at 7:30 that I want to go over to. So we're gonna go down through all the games one by one, an overall thought process. We'll look back on the predictions I made on the preview podcast and see how we got on. And be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That's all going pretty well. If we could maybe set a like target, I think we got it in around the 70 like mark for the preview. Let's go for 100. Why not? 100 likes on this video, and we'll stay motoring. On Spotify as well, doing pretty well. Follow us over there, and give us a good rating on Spotify. That helps things as well. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. So yeah, the first round of the county championship is in the books. Loads of games to get through. We go down through game by game, and I just say what I see. So the games I was at over the weekend started on Friday night. I was up in Templeogue for Burgess against Ballinrobe. Unfortunately for Burgess, we were beaten by Ballinrobe. We'll talk a little bit about that game later on. Then on Saturday, I was doing the Nenagh and Thurles Sarsfields game on the radio. So we'll talk a bit about that, of course. Straight from that, I went on to Berserker to catch Tumivara against Holy Cross. We're going to speak about that game in just a second. Caught the tail end of Silver Mines against Borland Duella. And when I mean tail end, I just got the World War III at the end of the game. Just as I stood up on the bank in Berserker, kind of all hell was breaking loose over on the far side, the opposite side to the stand, the road side. There was just all hell breaking loose over there just as I got in. But so then on Sunday, I was in Dala for the double header, Upper Church Drumban against Moneygall at 1:30. And then we were live on the radio for Berserker against Killarone McDonough's on Tip FM at 3:30. And then I was going to go into Nenagh to watch Laura against JK Brackens, but I was actually knackered when I got home from Dala, so I just watched that game on my phone. And then I've caught up with most of the games over the course of the last kind of 24 hours, and I was catching up on some of Saturday's games on Saturday evening and things like that. So let's get straight into it. Loads to get to. Let's start with Group 1 of the County Senior Hurling Championship, kind of labelled the Group of Death: Holy Cross, Toom, Killadangan, Clonalty. Really difficult group, and some really good games in this group. Holy Cross beating Tumivara 225 to 28 points. I was so impressed with Holy Cross, particularly that first half. 115 to 9 points they led at the halfway stage. Joe Caesar scored a penalty, but the movement, the kind of the cohesion of the Holy Cross play, they all knew what they were doing. They were making the runs and the ball was going there. Timing, everything just looked on point. I was so impressed with them. All the way down through the field, they had Cathal O'Reilly kind of man marking Darren McCarthy. So much faith thrown into a young lad, his first game in the Downbreen competition, and he's marking Darren McCarthy, who's not that much older than him, but it just shows the faith that Brendan Ryan and Aidan Stakelum and the lads with Holy Cross have in young Cathal O'Reilly. And why wouldn't they? He was brilliant with the under-20s this year, and he had a good game on Darren McCarthy. Fouled him a good few times, but was right there with him, and he's so comfortable on the ball as well. But that Holy Cross full back line is really impressive. Carl Barrett back there at full back, so aggressive. He's the Carl Barrett we've all known. He was kind of pushed up into the forwards in recent years, but I think they have so much attacking talent that he's best used probably in that full back line. And Evan Morris there as well. Like, that's some full back line for Holy Cross. Carl O'Reilly, Carl Barrett and Evan Morris. They'd no Brian O'Mara, they'd no Jim Ryan, but they were just... Mikey Nally is my first time really seeing him. I think he played junior. Keane Tracy anyway was telling me he played junior with Holy Cross last year, and he was really impressive with them. And geez, he was unreal. He's so good in the air. He snapped a load of ball. He was setting up scores. He set up the second goal for David Fogarty I believe that was in the second half. Yeah, it was in the second half. But yeah, just really, really impressive by Holy Cross. But in fairness to Toom, they were second best, 9 points down at half time. But Toom are Toom, and they'll never really give in. And they were right back in the game. They were really, Darren McCarthy was nailing frees from everywhere. It was a really, really good exhibition of free taking by Darren McCarthy, which is no surprise to us here in Tipperary whatsoever. But from his own half, difficult angles, far back, under pressure, he was scoring them all. Got a couple from play as well, and almost set up a goal chance late on. It was Adam Hall who broke onto it, Kyle Barrett, with a huge kind of diving block. That was a big moment in the game in the second half. Kevin McCarthy started the game really well, got the first, himself and Dara got the first maybe 6 or 7 scores, I'd say, for Toom, but didn't really get too much into it in the second half from what I saw. But it was just kind of disjointed from Toom. Like they started the game very slow, and because of that, they were chasing the game, and they chased it well. They got it back to 3 points. Then I think that Holy Cross goal pushed the lead back out. Toom got it back to 3 points again, and the game ended with a ball being lobbed into the edge of the square, and it was cleared out. But that's what it came down to for a finish. So really impressed by Holy Cross, but Toom were right there. But this is a really tough group now, so Toom are on the back foot immediately, and I had them in the favourites bracket for a good reason. They're in the county final last week, and for the most part, like, they weren't too bad. It was just that early start and how good Holy Cross were. Like, Robbie Ryan was very impressive. Dara Woods nailing the frees. Ty Gould was solid in the middle of the field. Joe Caesar, didn't see an awful lot of him, but when he was on the ball, he's striking his crisp. And I think that's the thing with a lot of the Tip inter-county players. Like, in county championships gone by the time the inter-county players are playing in it, Tip had been knocked out of the championship earlier. But the Tip players now, the inter-county lads, have had top-class training all the way up to the third week of July. So they're all looking really, really sharp from what I've seen over the weekend. But Owen Craddock got a couple of points early on, but I was mentioning Mikey Nally. I thought he was just exceptional. So good in the air, such a threat, getting on a lot of ball, throwing over points, setting up goals. And yeah, late on, Conor O'Mara came on for Toom. Like, he was on the field about 5 minutes and had about 5 shots off. He scored 2 or 3 points, hit 1 or 2 wides, and he got red carded very late on, so he's going to be missing the next day. He's going to be a big loss because he'd done so well. He scored that goal in the county final last year, but that was just a real... He hit a ball wide, and I think one I think might have been Liam Doyle, maybe the Holy Cross wing back, just kind of gave him a nudge in the back or whatever. Probably said something to him about hitting the ball wide, and Conor O'Mara just turned and kind of dug into him while shouldering him. I think it was probably a little bit harsh maybe, but it was kind of his own fault, 100% his own fault. Like, if he just shouldered your man, it would be fine, but he did this motion, and whether he actually dug in the hurley, but he did it while he was shouldering him, and it was a red card, and he had to walk off the field, and he's going to be a big loss for the next day. But I mentioned Toom got it back to 3 points, and it's a young Holy Cross team that everyone mentions, and you're kind of thinking, let's see what they're made of now. They could blow up here if they're a young team, whatever. But these lads are just used to winning games underage. James Doyle got a big score late on, kind of out towards the sideline. Ewan Burke, the goalkeeper, got a big free. I think Dara Woods might have been coming out to take it, and Ewan Burke just threw it up and slapped it over the bar. So they were really big scores for Holy Cross late on. But overall, really impressed by them. And Aidan Stakelum, he's from Holy Cross. He's been involved with all these players underage. He was with Lockmore Castellani last year, and they all kind of raved about how good he was with them. Now he's back with Holy Cross, and they look really, really good. So that's a really good start to the year for Holy Cross. And they're going to go on to play Killadangan in round 2, because Killadangan beat Clonalty Rossmore 220 to 21 points. I was able to catch up this game. earlier today. Ty Gallagher early on scored a goal for Killadangan. It was kind of a fast start for Killadangan with that goal, and they never really, they were never behind after that. Clounty were always chasing, and they were always right there. There's only 2-3 points in it for the most part. Jason O'Dwyer made 2 big saves in the first half. One was from Sean Hayes. Trying to think of who the other one might have been from. No, I'm not going to be able to remember it now, but he did make 2 big saves. I thought for the goals, the second goal was a bit of a mess, to be honest. From Conor Cullen scored it, but from Clounty Rossmore, they played a short puck out to the corner back. He tried to play it back into the middle of the field, kind of on the edge of the D, but it was a ball that was like bouncing and bobbly, like it was a bad pass, and it fell to Billy Seymour. He hand passed it in, and it was one of those ones where Conor Cullen was in behind the back, one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and he tried to leather it off the ground, and he did, but it took all the zip off the ball. And Jason O'Dwyer had dived early, and it just kind of went in. It was an all-around mess of a goal. Now the first goal, the Ty Gallagher goal, John, he probably couldn't have saved that, but he dived early, like he went really early, and the ball kind of went down the middle, kind of thing. So that was just something I noted. Enda Heffernan was very good. He scored 4 points. Willie Connors was scoring points from everywhere. Long range frees from play. He was serious. Stephen Ferncombe was accurate as ever on the frees. Got 2 from play as well. I have Clounty nearly scored a freak goal before half time. That was Alan Flynn going back towards his own goals, and I don't know what happened. He tried to play it back to Barry Hogan and just kind of half slipped and dropped the ball, and then it was flicked from about 5 yards away, hit off a body, flicked again, and it went wide. I think some of the Clounty dugout were jumping up celebrating. They thought it was gone in because it looked like that, but it was just a kind of a calamity, and that was down at the same goal as where Killadangan's second goal was. But all in all, very close game. That Conor Cullen goal was in injury time, so there was only 2-3 points in it throughout. But Killadangan looking good as ever. Fergal Hayes went off injured in the game, but I don't know. He got a knock, and then he got up and continued, and then had to go off. So interesting to see how he is. Elsewhere, Dan O'Mara was replaced. Just didn't really go his way from what I saw on the clips. If you're a listener to the podcast, you know I'm a big fan of Dan O'Mara's style of play and how tricky he is on the ball. Sean Hayes getting back into the swing of things as well. But Willie Connors was very good at the back. For Clounty Rossmore, I mentioned Enda Heffernan's 4 points. Robert Doyle come up for a point late on as well. Jack Ryan threatened at times. He kind of broke through a couple of times. Just couldn't get a hand pass away. He kind of broke through, and there was no real easy option on, and was kind of pulled back or fouled or stopped in his tracks kind of thing. Carl Burke got some serious scores, but Clounty are still a very good team. They've gone up against who I saw as favourites for the county championship before a ball was thrown in, and they were right there with them the whole way up until the very end when that goal went in. So all in all, good performance for Clounty. They do have the preliminary quarter-final if they need it, but they won't want to use it, and they're going to be playing Toom next, and that is a huge game. Group 1, Toom against Clounty, round 2. Looking forward to when those fixtures are made, because we'll be picking what ones we're doing on Tip FM. So yeah, I'm hoping that there's a few that I really want to see that are on at nice times that we'll be able to cover. So that was Group 1. Wins for Holy Cross, wins for Killadangan, and we do have the table there. So Killadangan first, Holy Cross second, Toom third, and Clounty fourth. So in fairness to Toom, score difference is a factor, and the fact that they battled back and got it to 3 points is commendable, and it could be important. Who knows what way this championship will play out. But let's go to Group 2 now, and I have it up in front of me here. Group 2 was a massive win for Nenagh Rogue against Thurles Sarsfields. I was commentating on this game. Nenagh, I had mentioned how you don't really know what you're going to get sometimes from Nenagh. They've beaten Thurles in the past, they've blown them away, they've got beaten by Thurles the last 2 years, but I was really, really impressed by Nenagh now over the weekend down in the Rag. 126 to 315 it finished, and it's a scoreline, it's a 5-point scoreline that in truth probably flatters Thurles Sarsfields. They got a goal late on, but Nenagh were much the better team, particularly in the second half. Thurles playing with the aid of a massive wind. Very windy weekend in Tipperary. I think the wind was nearly a factor in every game. and there this evening now on Monday evening, no breeze whatsoever, and a lovely evening out there. But wind was a big factor. We saw it for the goal, first goal for Thurles Sarsfields. That was a short puck out from Paddy McCormack to Dennis Maher, and I think it was to Dennis Maher, and he lorried it down to the full forward line. Paddy Creedon caught it. He was fouled by Mark Carey, and Ronan Maher came up to take the penalty and lettered it into the back of the net. I actually have my notes from that game that I'll be able to look at here in terms of who done the scoring and that. The other goal then was a ball into the kind of diagonal ball into the full forward line, just over the head of Paddy Murphy, and it made its way to Liam McCormack. He's so quick, so low to the ground. He kind of spun in behind, ran down the end line, kind of hand passed it across to Dara Stakelum, and Dara Stakelum catch, shoot, just top corner job. No stopping it for Dermot McTiernan in the Nenagh goals. And you know, I'm not sure what was the halftime score. I have it written down here. It was 2-8 to 10 points at halftime to Thurles. So the goals were the big thing. But Nenagh would have been happy with how they were performing in that first half. But the second half was kind of going around. It was a real slow first half, actually, now that I remember it back. Like we were commentating on it, myself and Ken Hogan, and there's a few times where I was thinking, no one else is talking here in the stand, like everyone can hear us, and that's kind of weird when you're, you know, the only one talking, and like a couple of hundred people in that short area. Like Mikey Heffernan came out to take a free, and it was, you know, right on the sideline between the 265s, and we were maybe 10 yards away from him, and I had to just stop talking because I'm trying to describe what's happening for listeners on the radio, but I don't want to actually put off the guy taking the free right in front of me. So it was just a strange atmosphere for the first half. It was a very stop-start, no real flow to the game. But then the second half, it all kind of came to life with Nenah's goal. James Mackey came on in the first half for Mark Carey. Mark Carey had got that yellow card, had fouled Paddy Creedon for the penalty, one or two other fouls from him. So the Nenagh management said, right, we have to take him off. James Mackey come on. Barry Heffernan kind of dropped back. Jake Donald and Hoolan was taking a lot of the short puck outs. Conor Hennessy was back there as well. But James Mackey, halfway between the 265s, right where the referee throws the ball in, facing down into the clubhouse end in the rag, going for a point, dropped short, kind of, you know, hip height for the goalkeeper, Paddy McCormack. No one near him, just put his hurley to it. Now the sun was there, but it looked like he had a good view of it. He might have lost it at the very last second, but just hit off the side of his hurley and into the back of the net. And that kind of sprung Nenagh to life. The next puck out went long. Conor Ryan came out like a train and won the ball. And was that the one he threw over the bar? There was big scores for Nenagh then. And that there was kind of no looking back from that point. Sam O'Farrell was incredible for Nenagh. He scored 5 points from play. But there was one score that was just unbelievable. I think Clubber actually shared it today. Ball coming to him, chest height, middle of the field, running towards his own goals, man on his back. He could feel the presence of the Thurles player coming behind him. So he hurley like this, kind of touches it like that. So the spin on the ball brings it behind him, turns around, touches it into his hand passes it off, and over the bar it went from Nenagh for a finish. In the actual, like in the Clubber footage, you can see myself and Ken Hogan. It's not that clear because we're in the background in the stand, but when he did it, I was literally like this, like hand on head, like, oh my God, what have I just seen? It was just a piece of genius by Sam. And like what he's so good at is he gets the ball, he always has his head up, he's always really aware of where the people are around him, and he's able to just do a little shimmy or a little body feint, and he's able to open up space for himself and just take points at ease. Everything he does is kind of at ease, and he was really good. I thought Ben West was exceptional early on, winning dirty ball for Nenagh when they weren't winning much ball at the time. He was a really nice out ball. Philip Hickey working hard as always. Mikey Heffernan, it was one of the best I've seen Mikey in recent years. I thought he was really, really good now. He scored 10 points. He would have scored a lot of frees, but he scored a lot from play as well and was real instrumental to what they were doing. Jake Morris scored 4 points, all from play. And it was funny, like Jake, you know, there was the word of his injury and not doing much training with Tip late on because he'd been injured and getting injections and things like that. So you're kind of watching to see what kind of shape he's in. But it felt like he hurled when he had to. Dara Stakelum got a goal late on for Thurles. Nenagh were kind of cruising, and then suddenly that goal went in and it was back to like a 3-point game in injury time. and you're kind of thinking, oh geez, if Nenagh throw this away now, they've been much the better team here. But straight from the puck out, Dermot McTiernan launched it long, and Jake just rose above Paul Maher, snapped the ball, and like falling back edge of the D under pressure, struck it high up into the air, and it landed over the bar. It was a serious score, and he got one other kind of inspirational score like that late on as well. So big performance from him. I was impressed with Josh Keller. Thought he moved well around the middle of the field. Real good kind of ball carrier, and he's big, kind of tall fella, so he's hard to stop once he gets going. Jake Donlan-Hoolan, a minor last year for Tipperary, he looked very comfortable in possession. Connor Hennessy at cornerback, he was moving up and down the field, but so physical. Real nice player to have back there as well. So, and Barry Heffernan was sweeping and just really composed in possession, and a real linchpin of that defence for Nenagh. So fair play to Nenagh. They were 2-1 heading into that game, but a massive win for them. For Thurles, Connor Stakelum scored 6 points. He was on the freeze. Paddy Creedon looked good at times. He scored 3 points, won the penalty. Liam McCormick looked threatening as well. But I just thought as a whole, Thurles looked a little bit disjointed in attack, particularly. Ronan, similarly to Jake, carrying injury, scored 1-1. The penalty was his goal. But yeah, we weren't seeing him taking over the game, so he probably, and Ronan nearly takes over every game he plays, so that would lead you to believe maybe he's still not 100%. Other good performers. It was just disjointed, I thought. Like, any ball that went into Liam McCormick looked really dangerous. He set up Dara Stakelum's first goal. Dara Stakelum scored another goal late on. That was kind of a rebound that came back out to him, and he lettered it. Dermot McTiernan made 2 good saves there, but he was just unfortunate that the rebound went out to Dara Stakelum, and he finished it. But yeah, like Dara Stakelum even finished with 2 goals, but it wasn't kind of a unreal performance or anything like that. It was just a bit disjointed from Thurles. It was a strange game, particularly the first half. If you're planning on watching back games over the course of the week, Thurles versus Nenagh, I'd say just turn it on at half time. The first half, a lot of loose possession, a lot of ball clearances going to Barry Heffernan or Ronan Maher or the loose men, and then ball playing short between the fullback and cornerback, that kind of thing. So it wasn't that entertaining of a first half, but that James Mackey goal was the turning point. So big win for Nenagh Rogue there over Thurles Sarsfields. The other game in that group, Cashel, announced their return to the Dan Breen Cup with a 224 point win over Mullahorn. There was a big wind in Littleton, as I was saying, everywhere there was a big wind over the weekend, but it was a close game throughout. Devin Ryan goal in the 45th minute gave Cashel the lead. That was their first time taking the lead, but Sean Kern's freeze kept Mullahorn in touch. They didn't go away. Mikey O'Shea got a few nice scores from what I saw in that game as well. But it was a really impressive performance, I thought, from the Cashel half back line. The likes of Owen Connolly, Ronan Connolly. I think Ronan Connolly might have got 4 points. Conor Dwyer got a few big ones as well. They're just that's a real good win for Cashel, because Mullahorn are very much like, they're almost like the gatekeepers of senior hurling in terms of their real tough test at the senior grade. Nothing comes easy off Mullahorn, so a young team in Cashel coming up against them was a real test of where Cashel are at, and they passed that test. It needed to happen late, and it did happen late, but in fairness to them, Owen Connolly scored a penalty with 5 minutes to go, just buried it. He scored a sideline as well, just in top form. Oisin O'Donoghue was moving around the field. I've watched so many games, I'm trying to think of what happened in this game. Enda Keane got in a few scores early on. Sean Kern, as I said, kept him in it. Conor Whelan got a few scores as well from range. But Jack Shelley is a huge loss for that Mullahorn team. So I think I might have had the 2 of these teams, and we'll have to be careful, just because in the tier list I did, just because whoever loses this game would have to be, I had Cashel and will have to be careful, and I think I might have had Mullahorn and could be in trouble. So Mullahorn now, they'll have to play Thurles next and then Nenagh, and they're going to need to win one of those games to avoid relegation. But that's a huge win for Cashel, 224 points, and they go marching on to play Nenagh next, and that's a massive game, because whoever wins that is probably going to be through to the next round, they'll think. And then, if Cashel were to lose that, they'll be playing Thurles in the last round. So it doesn't get any easier. But Cashel have got that win now. They'll be full of confidence, and on they go after a 224 to 24 point win, over Mullahorn. So Group 3, the games here: Lockmore Castleiney against Drummond and JK Brackens against Lura. And Lockmore Castleiney, I think everyone has seen this at this stage. Just a so dramatic finish to this game. 218 to 120, beating Drummond. Literally last puck of the game, the goalkeeper Aidan McGrath comes up to score it. Lockmore were 7 or 8 points up in the second half, but Drum reeled them in. Seamus Callan got some big frees, got it back to 3 points, and eventually Seamus Callan buried a 21-yard free in Templeogue. I think he bounced it off the ground. I'm not sure if this, I haven't been to Templeogue just a little bit. I'm not sure if they still have that strip of Astro coming out from the goals that they did. I don't think they do, but they probably still have the Astro around the goals. But he just leathered it off the ground. I don't think it hit the Astro because it was at a bit of an angle, and buried it into the back of the net, and it was level. And then in their own full back line, Lockmore win a free. One of the Drummond lads picks up the ball or kicks it away so they can't take it quickly. This is deep in injury time. Referee brings it up to the 45. John McGrath comes out to take it. He's looking like he's going to have a crack at it, but he's very far out. And Noel makes a run off him. That pulls the Drummond defender away. And next thing, John plays it back along the ground to the goalkeeper, Aidan McGrath, who had come out to near the 45. He picks it up. John then goes on a run to pull more defenders away. And Aidan McGrath opens up the shoulders outside his own 45 and launches it over the bar. And that's it. Over the bar it goes. And Lockmore win it by a point. So a real sickener for Drummond because they battled back. Lorcan Campion got a good few scores. And he had a goal chance late on that Aidan McGrath kind of just flicked away from him, or just closed him down and saved it late on. 2 goals for John McGrath. The first one was a pass from Liam, and did he volley it, or did he kind of touch it on his hurley and then volley it low in the clubhouse end in Templeogue? And the second goal was just a typical John McGrath goal. Liam McGrath takes a shot for a point. Everyone's looking at the ball. John McGrath just gambles. You don't even have to call it a gamble, really, because he just, let's say if that hits the post or whatever, or goes wide and a quick puck out goes to his man, maybe that's the gamble. But he made the gamble that it would hit the post, and hit the post, came down to him, volleyed it into the back of the net. He got some big scores late on as well. He also got one that was waved wide that he seemed to be furious about, that it wasn't waved over the bar. But yeah, just a real sickener for Drum, because I would have fancied Lockmore to win that game, but knowing that it's a local derby and they tend to take on a life of their own. But a real disappointing one for Drum that they didn't get something, because they tried so hard to get that game back level when they were 7 or 8 points down in the last quarter, and to get it back level then, and then to concede the last point with the Lockmore goalkeeper Aidan McGrath sending it over the bar is just a sickener. But it's just it's another example really of just Lockmore, isn't it? Lockmore, they just find a way, don't they? And they found a way to win that game. They'll go on to play JK Brackens in the second round, another neighbouring parish of them. JK Brackens had a 10-point win over Lura inside Nenagh on Sunday evening, 228 to 218. And this was the two Ormans, Andy and his younger brother Jamie. Andy scored 7 points, 6 from play and a sideline, and Jamie Orman scored 6 points, all from play in that game. Goals for JK Brackens from Shane Doyle and Stephen Cahill. Patrick Bonner-Maher and Alan O'Mara got the first half goals for Lura. But in the second half, there was only a point in it. I think Brackens were up by a point at half time, something like 213 to 212, around that mark. And Lura were right there in that second half, but they just hit a lot of wides at the scoreboard end in Nenagh, and that kind of cost them. And Brackens just couldn't miss. They were firing over points from everywhere. Lyndon Fairbrother wasn't starting the game. He came on and just got 2 class points, one out by the sideline. And that was kind of it. It was just that more accurate shooting from JK Brackens that got them over the line. So that's a big win for them over Lura. 10-point margin for the finish. So next up, it's Brackens against Lockmore and Drummond against Lura. So, Lura, the thing about Lura is, they're probably underdogs for all these games that they're playing, but they do have goal scorers. Owen McIntyre, when he gets a ball, all he's thinking is direct. Colin Fogarty was very solid on the frees. Bonner is such a threat inside. So they do have the scoring power. I thought Michael Dolan, I was going to call him Doyle, but Michael Dolan had a fine game at centre back as well. But those threats that they have running forward, they have the scoring power, but it's whether they can keep it out at the other end is the question. So they will face Drummond Inch next, and that's going to be a very interesting game to see how that goes. But Group 4 now, we go on to Mike Harkey Burris. They had a 6-point win over Roscrea, 124 to 118. That was also on in Templemore. And the other game in that group was Killerone McDonough's against Berserker. I'm just going to sit back a little bit now. Am I still on the camera? I am. It is roasting in this room. I should have opened the window a little bit more before I hit record, but here we are. Excuse me, let me open up my notes for this game. But we will start with that Mike Harkey Burris Roscrea game. Was able to watch back bits of that earlier today. Bill Flanagan with the goal for Mike Harkey in the first half. Real nice finish from him down at the clubhouse end in Templemore. Peter Melbourne, Joe Egan, Killian Cantwell, Kyle Shelley, Niall Heffernan, they all started on the bench for Mike Harkey, but that kind of made me realise, geez, they have a very deep squad, don't they? That they still had so many good players on the field. Kieran Morris was knocking over all the frees. It was 114 to 9 points at halftime to Mike Harkey, and it kind of played out like that. Roscrea got a few points back to start the second half, and then Bill Flanagan got a straight red card. So he, I think it was an off-the-ball incident with the Roscrea fullback. I think it was Shane Davis, and straight red card for Bill Flanagan. So Mike Harkey were down to 14 then. There was only 5 in it at that point. But Shane Fletcher, usually such a spot-on free taker, he missed a 65 in a central position, and then he missed a free from just around the 45 in a relatively central position soon after that. And if he got 2 of those, which you would back him to do, it'll be down to a 1-score game with about 10 minutes to go. But instead, Mike Harkey pushed on. Kieran Morris knocked over a few frees, and then Max Hackett got a big score. Kieran Cummins drove forward for a point, and Jack Hayes got a point as well in that period, and that kind of just took the game away from Roscrea. Kenny Lee did get a goal late on, a real nice goal. He was out in front of his man, got it, turned him, brought it down the end line and put it low past Reece Shelley in the goals, but it wasn't to be, it was too late. So 124 to 118, a big win for Mike Harkey Burris. But Bill Flanagan, straight red card. He's been on brilliant goal scoring form for Mike Harkey throughout the mid-championship. Another goal in the game against Roscrea over the weekend, but he will miss the next game, and that's going to be against Killerone McDonough's. Killerone had a 122 to 115 victory over Berserker. And this was 10-11 days after they played in the North Championship. That was a game Berserker won by 3 points, but this game Killerone were fairly dominant, you'd have to say. Berserker did have some threatening moments, like JD Devaney. Anytime the ball went near him, he's back to really, really good form. Like, we all kind of remember 2019 JD Devaney when he broke on the scene, when Berserker won the county final. He scored a goal in the county final that year, went on to win the Munster, and he was just electric. And then we didn't really see that from him for a couple of years there, whereas now I think he's back and to that level and a little bit more because of the experience he's grown in the last 6 years or whatever, and he's kind of stronger and maybe even faster. Like, he's just such a rocket when he gets the ball. He makes it look easy because he's able to separate from his man. He scored 1-2 on the day against Killerone up in Dalla, but the goal was class out in front of James Cleary, who done fairly well because the ball coming in, particularly in the first half when Berserker were playing against the wind, lovely ball coming in because there was that space there in front of the Berserker full forward line. He got it, and it felt like it was going to be a big turning point because at the time Killerone were leading by 6 points. Jory Cahill broke through, kind of drew the goalie out because he was in close range, and then played it across the edge of the square, and it was there for Shane Cleary. He could have caught it, I think, and finished it. He went to kind of volley it first time and just kind of mishit it completely. Goal at his mercy, goes wide, puck out, goes down the field. It's hit into James Devaney, and as I said, outside the 21, out towards the sideline, kind of coming out over his right shoulder, looking in field, touches it, then sticks the right foot in the ground, and he's gone. He's gone off his left shoulder in behind and buries it low. And that was a 3-point game, and it was like a 6-point swing because it was literally just on the edge of half time. But Killerone did get one more score before half time, so they went in 4 points up at the break, 112 to 1-8. Killerone's goal came in like the first minute of the game. Cian Darcy done really well to kind of get the ball in his possession, draw a couple of defenders in, pop it off to Cian O'Kelly, and a real tidy finish low into the near post from Cian O'Kelly, who was really good throughout. So it was 4 points in it at half time, but Berserker had the breeze, and Berserker had it back level with 15 minutes to go. And you were thinking Berserker could shove on here now and win this game, but Killerone just had what they have in abundance as ball winners. Willie Cleary, Thomas Cleary, Cian O'Kelly, particularly in that final quarter. I thought Willie Cleary really showed up, caught a load of high balls, dirty balls, won a few frees. He was knocking over the frees. It was just a real strong finish from Killerone. And then Cian Darcy, who hadn't scored up to this point, got 2 unbelievable scores towards the end of the game. One out on the sideline on the 45, coming out the field towards the stand, and over his shoulder back towards the clubhouse end in Dala, over the bar. Serious score from him. Jerry Kelly was class throughout. Jerome Cahill. Jerry Kelly was actually very good for Bursley as well. Dan McCormack didn't play this game for Bursley. He was out injured. Craig Morgan did play. There was kind of concern about his fitness coming into it. He did play, looked really well. Then he got a belt on the hand of some sort. He went off. He came back on, and the 2 middle fingers were wrapped and on his left hand, and all his hand was wrapped. It was like when a boxer takes off their gloves. It was kind of that kind of amount of wrapping on his hand. So interesting to see what happened there, whether it was a blood thing, whether it was a broken bone, a dislocation, I don't know. So that's something to keep an eye out for that game against Mike Burris is Craig Morgan. Aaron Morgan was marking Paddy McCormack. I thought he had a brilliant game. And this is a really good Killerone team. Like their starting 15 is very, very good. They brought on a couple of youngsters. Michael Cleary come on and got a point straight away. Dara Peters actually be the same age as myself. He's been in New York for a couple of years and been really unlucky with injuries. Really good underage player with Tipperary. He came onto the field, so good to see him back. We had 8 points from Willie Cleary. Jerry Cahill with 4 from play. Could have had a goal. He blazed over the bar. Should have set up that goal, only for Shane Cleary mishitting it from close range. Cian O'Kelly with 1-2. A point for Michael Cleary, as I mentioned. 2 points for Niall O'Mara. A point each for Owen Hogan, who come off the bench. Craig Morgan got a point as well. And Cian Darcy got those 2 points. So it was, they were just much the better team, Killerone. Yeah, really well worth the 7-point victory, although they did pull away at the end. But I thought they were worth the win. For Bursley, 1-2 for James Devaney, 5 points for Patrick Ryan on the frees. Eddie Ryan got a couple. Sean McCormack, Conor Kenny got a point each. Jerry Kelly got 3 points. Dan McCormack was a big loss. He was doing water there on the sideline. So interesting to see when he'll be back for Bursley. But yeah, they go on now to play Roscrea in the next game. That's must-win stuff for them. And for Bursley, they haven't gotten out of the group since 2021. So their players would have known how big of a result that was. They looked really kind of dejected walking off the field, but they'll have to pick themselves up now, have to beat Roscrea, and then set up a final round showdown with Mike Burris. So still all to play for, but disappointing result for Bursley in terms of good performances from them. Tom Delaney is just always real composed and cool on the ball. But yeah, James Devaney was really good in that first half. Couldn't really get him into the game in the second half. Jerry Kelly as well. Jerry Kelly's kind of a big time player. I think when you need someone to step up and leadership, he's often the one to step up. So it's really good to see him back, but it's just a very disappointing result for Bursley. So that kind of rounds up where we are in the senior championship. Let's go to my predictions to see where we stand. So at the senior grade, make sure you can all see that. Let's see, Toomevara against Holy Cross. I went with Toom, so that is a wrong one for me. Holy Cross won that game. Killadangan and Clonalty Rossmore. I went with Killadangan. Killadangan won the game. Cashel against Mullahorn. I went with Cashel. Cashel won the game. Thurles against Nenagh. I went with Thurles. Nenagh won the game. In my original graphic that I had made before I looked into the games, I actually had Nenagh down to win. But that doesn't mean anything now. I put Thurles down to win on the podcast, and Nenagh won the game. So I'm 2 from 4 there from seniors so far. Brackens against Lura. I went with Brackens. Brackens won the game. Drummonninch against Lockmore. I went with Lockmore. They won the game with the skin of their teeth. Roscrea against Moycarkey. I went with Moycarkey Burris, and they won the game. And Killer won against Bursley. I went with a draw, but Killer won that game. So let's see, what did I get there? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 8. Not too bad. The ones I didn't get was Killer won. I went for a draw there. I didn't get Nenagh beating Sarsfields, and I didn't get Holy Cross beating Tombs. So those are the predictions for the Senior Championship. Let's go down now to the Premier Intermediate. But I suppose a roundup of the Senior Championship in general, it is as advertised, incredibly open, very hard to call, and I think we're none the wiser on who's going to win it after the first round. So that's really, really good thing for us onlookers onto the Senior Championship, because sometimes I think, like, if I was doing my job now, like I'm sports editor in Tip FM, if I was doing that, but I was working in Waterford and it's Ballygunner going for 11 in a row or whatever it is now, and they've won 60-something championship games in a row, God, we're just so blessed, like, that the way it is in Tip at the minute, that there's so many different teams that can win it. So really good opening weekend, lots of excitement, and then it's kind of, as well, we haven't had it all in one weekend. You know, we know there'll be better games ahead, and it's a nice kind of slow build. We've had a nice taster there in the first weekend with good games around the county. I'm going to take a quick sip of water, and we'll get into the Premier Intermediate. So apologies, it's just I've been talking for 40 minutes. Jesus. 1 second now. Right. Oh, I needed that big time, right. So 41 and a half minutes. I need to speed up. Right. We'll run down through the Premier Intermediate. These games on over the weekend. 2 first round. Group 1, Girton Who Glengool 217, Moyne Temple 2 118. So this was they played each other 5 days before, when they played on Friday evening in the mid-final, and there was 19 points in it to Girton Who. There the other day, Girton Who, Moyne Temple 2 could have really won that game. They were right there. Girton Who had a man sent off. Moyne were up by 3 points with 15 minutes to go, and Girton Who got a man sent off. It was, was it Adrian Maher? Or Aidan Guilfoyle? Was it? Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think it might have been Adrian Maher off the top of my head. I could be wrong on that, but Girton Who did get a man sent off with 15 minutes to go, and Moyne were up by 3 points. But literally 30 seconds after the sending off, the ball broke in, and Keane Hayes, there was a foul on one of the Girton Who players running through, and Keane Hayes slotted home the penalty. It was a draw after that. And Moyne got some bad wides late on. There was, I thought, 2 soft frees for Girton Who late in the game. I'm not sure who was reffing it. I don't want to out anyone like that, but I'm just saying, from my perspective, if you were there, it could have been a different view, but just looking at it on cover, it looked like 2 soft frees late on. Keane Hayes is going to nail them all day, and Girton Who held on for a win. But really impressed with Moyne Temple 2, because they were right there with who I see as maybe joint favourites for this competition, Girton Who, alongside Carrick Swan, and they're right there with him, and they'll be kind of kicking themselves that they didn't win the game. A couple of bad wides, as I mentioned, towards the end. Paul Maher scored the penalty for Moyne Temple 2 in the game. But there was a couple of times, like late on, Conor Bowe broke through a couple of tackles, popped off a hand pass, and on the centre of the 45, wide ball, and real kind of killer stuff. So Girton Who get out of the first round with a win, 217 to 118. But much closer than I would have expected. The other game in that group, Thurles Sarsfields beat Sean Tracy's 319 to 118. So what is that? 6 points for a finish, 7 points for a finish. That doesn't really tell the story of that game. I haven't seen it now, but Massey McCormick scored a goal with 5 minutes to go. That put Thurles up by 3 points. So Thurles obviously finished much stronger there over Sean Tracy's. It was level at half-time. Killian Minogue and Jack Lanigan with the goals for Thurles. It was a Jack Lanigan penalty. And Killian Minogue, interesting to see his development. Of course, a Tipperary minor last year on the Thurles CBS team as well. Just to see his kind of development with this Thurles second team, and maybe will they use him at the senior grade, I don't know. But an expected win for Thurles, but Sean Tracy's could have made a show of me, because I had them down at the could be in trouble, tierless bracket. If you were following my TikTok during the week, and lots of Sean Tracy's people in the comments, and young lads, like, it's on TikTok, so it's always young lads, and things like that. But in fairness to them, I always say they're very hard bet. They always have a result in them, and they were right there with Sarsfields, who are kind of always thereabouts at this grade, and Tracy's were right with them until the end. But ultimately, Sarsfields won that game 319 to 118. Onto Group 2 now. Borland Duala 122, Silvermines 217. So it was a 2-point victory for Borland Duala. And it got a little bit shaky. Borland were up by 7 or 8 points in the second half, but Silvermines reeled them in. Bit fortuitous, Sean Nolan taking a 65, and it just made its way into the back of the net. Palimi got a point then after that, and suddenly there was like only a point in it. But Borland held on. Tomas Ryan was class, particularly in that second half. Tossie Ryan, he was scoring frees, he was scoring points from play. Really, really good from him. Jason Ford got the first goal for the Silvermines off a rebound. He finished it home into kind of the old clubhouse end, would you call it, in Bursley, the town end, the village end, whatever you want to call it, in Bursley. Patrick Gahan got the goal for Borland in the first half. Gerard Dwyer actually got sent off in this game, 2 yellows. So Jason Ford was kind of pushed forward, and he got onto 2 balls, went to take on Gerard Dwyer. He was rugby tackled for 1, and then kind of just aggressively, Gerard Dwyer kind of moved in and took him down straight away after for a second yellow about 2 minutes after the first. So Borland were down to 14 for the last 7 or 8 minutes, and Silvermines with that goal brought it back, but Borland held on to win the game. And then I've written down here World War III at full time. So that's what I was mentioning at the start when I showed up in Bursley. There was all hell breaking loose after the game. A lot of people, players and mentors pushing and shoving, bit of flaking going on. Not sure if anything came from it, but yeah, there was just something worth noting there in that Silvermines game with Borland Duala. The other game in that group was an absolute classic. I watched it today, and I recommend you watch it too. Aero Gannacarthy against Templeogue. Aero won it by 3 points for a finish, 222 to 316. And the first, if you're watching on YouTube, the notes I have when I was watching the game is Derek Kelly and Sean Ryan show. This was just brilliant from the two of these players. Derek Kelly, heavily kind of bandaged right leg, but he was moving so well. Himself and Sean Ryan, at one stage in the second half, it was end to end. Derek Kelly would do something class, get a score, set it one up, ball down the other end. Sean Ryan would do something class, get a goal, set it up. Just Derek Kelly kind of really announced himself to supporters last year with his performances for Aero Gannacarthy, and we all kind of expected him to be a big part of the Tipperary under-20s this year, but he was kind of injured, and it must be got to do with that right leg, I'd say. But there was no fear of him there in Kilcommon over the weekend against Templeogue. He was exceptional. So was Sean Ryan. I'd say they both scored about 1-4, 1-5 from play each. Sean Ryan was electric. Like, he was over with Tip Sanfran during the summer. Like, he is inter-county standard, no question about it. And I was actually thinking during the day that, like, Thurles Sarsfields are kind of missing that Sean Ryan kind of player. I was trying to think of it the other day, the kind of player they're kind of missing. If they had Sean Ryan, like if there was a transfer market in the Tipperary Ireland Championship, I'd say Sarsfields would be showing up at Sean Ryan's door with a boatload of cash, because he is just in some form, and he's able to win his own ball. He's got electric pace. He's a real good hurler, goal getter, sets up goals. Just brilliant player. Love watching him play, and he was class. His goal was a long ball in a Murray, got a little flick on it in the edge of the square, and Sean Ryan was there to get onto it and bury it into the back of the net. Aidan Griffin was class for Aero Gannacarthy. I think Mark Dunn and Shane Brophy on Clubber gave him man of the match. He scored maybe 1-5 or 1-6 in the game. His goal, a few minutes after the Sean Ryan goal, Aidan Griffin got onto it. It was actually Derek Kelly who got onto it, broke through, played it across, and Aidan Griffin got it and finished it into the back of the net. Templeogue were up by 2 points at half time, but up in Kilcommon they had a strong breeze, and you're kind of interested to see how it would go, because it felt like more than a 2-point lead or 2-point breeze. Grode Ryan got a goal early in the second half that was set up by Sean Ryan. after a class diving block from Paul Devlin is what I have. Yeah, so Sean Ryan got onto it, and Paul Devlin, the number 7 for Éire Óg an Carthy, this diving block was like heroic block, but just unfortunate in a way that it still broke off to Gearóid Ryan, and he put it into the back of the net. Dara Kelly then answered back at the far end of the fields to give Anacarty the lead. It was a volleyed effort, and ball kind of wasn't a hand pass across him, and something similar maybe to what Shane Cleary was trying to do for Killer One, but Dara Kelly executed it brilliantly, close range but just volleyed it into the back of the net. But the game was level with 2 minutes to go. I've Mikey Ryan down for a goal. A great finish low from the angle after a pass from who else? Only Sean Ryan. So he scored one for Templeogue and heavily involved in the other two. And the game was level with 2 minutes to go. But Éire Óg finished strong, got a few points. Aidan Griffin Dara Kelly got one out on the sideline that was just exceptional. You might have seen the clip going around. But he was just so good. It's a game I definitely recommend watching back throughout the week if you can. The only thing with it is I think they're having some connection issues up in Kilcommon, so there's no scoreboard, but Mark Dunn and Shane Brophy were great to just kind of constantly read out the score and things like that. So it all came down to the literally last puck of the game. There's a 21-yard free. It was saved by Darren Mooney in the goals, and the rebound came back out, and one of the Templeogue lads pulled on it from close range, and it was literally one of the Éire Óg an Carthy defenders on the line that kept it out. So if that went into the back of the net, that was last puck of the game. It would have been a draw game. But huge entertainment. Mark Jennery from Porch Row is refereeing it, and yeah, I like his style of refereeing. You know, he kind of no, there was one stage Gearóid Ryan kind of half flicked out at a fella, but you know, he didn't. You know, some refs could have ran over and given him a red card, and there would have been war. Whereas he just kind of got the ball. It was a free to Templeogue. He got the ball. He threw it in instead, and you know, the game went on. Another time there was pushing and shoving going on, and you know, he just kind of let it see itself out and just kind of told whoever to hit the free, and we'd play on. And I just kind of like that kind of style. So I thought he had a fine game. Refereeing that as well. There was a few decisions late on that people were kind of shouting in at, but I think that's kind of par for the course for every game. So Group 3 now in the Championship, Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship. Ballina beating Burgess 316 to 21 points, getting grief on TikTok comments from people from Ballina for this game. They've beaten us twice in a week, so let them have their day. This was up in Templeogue on Friday evening. Paddy Bradley, Josh Egan and Charlie King with the goals. It was fairly close game throughout, bar the goals. Like, the goals were obviously the big thing. And from a Burgess point of view, the first one, Paddy Bradley got on it. Nice hand pass from David Kelly, who kind of broke through, and a real nice kind of diagonal hand pass to kind of a man coming from the wing forward position. David Kelly coming from like centre forward, diagonal hand pass opened up, and Paddy Bradley came through and kind of batted it in with one hand on the hurley from close range. But the other two goals from a Burgess point of view, very frustrating. Line ball between the 265s each time. Jack Collins, I watched him all last year with the Tip under-20s. He hit pretty much every line ball in those games. I don't think I've ever seen the guy hit a bad line ball. He is right up there with all those lads from Carrick-on-Shore in terms of hitting line balls, and the likes of Shane Doyle from JK Brackens, who also scored a line ball as well as Andy Ormond actually in Nenagh yesterday. But he's right up there in terms of line ball strikers. He hit two of them from the 260 between the 265s into the far end in Templeogue. Just no one from a Burgess point of view got a touch on it. One of them was a catch and pop. I think that was Josh Egan's goal, and then the other one was a ball that went straight in again from a line ball that broke out to Charlie King, and he finished it. So just frustrating from a Burgess point of view. They felt softish in nature, and they were kind of big moments in the game for Ballina. Elsewhere for Ballina, anyone else? David Neelan for Burgess got a class score. You've probably seen that clip as well, where he flicked it over a lad's head, and when he was running through, I was like, he's not going to shoot from there, is he? And out on the sideline on inside the 14, I'd say, over the bar it went. Excuse me. So just disappointing one for ourselves and Burgess, but Michael Breen full back. Like, sometimes Michael Breen gets the ball, and like, he's such a train coming out of the full back line with the ball. Sometimes I'm thinking, if he just decided to run the field, I'm not sure anyone could stop him, because he's just such a beast of a lad running through. So he obviously had a good game. Brian Burke is someone that's caught my eye the last couple of days that I've seen him play. Such a good ball winner for Ballinrobe, and he had a fine game as well. Simon Grace made a good save late on. It was kind of a snapshot along the ground, dive and save to his right hand side. Elsewhere then, there was no Stephen O'Brien. Matthew Power nailed the freeze. And who else I want to mention? Charlie King. He's a real unorthodox kind of player. He's left hand on top, but kind of a unusual kind of striking technique, but he's really effective. Tip under 20 football captain this year, really fit and all that, but just it's kind of, it doesn't look, it just looks, it's something catches your eye when he's striking the ball, but he scored like 1-3 every game I'd say he's played this year, so it's obviously effective. Ballinrobe play a good brand. They're really fit, athletic lads, good running with the ball, off the shoulder stuff, which is kind of stereotypical. Someone talking about a team that plays football nearly always says that, but they are very good at how they play. And 3-16 to 21 point winners over ourselves. So we'll have to win our final 2 games against Moneygall and Upperchurch, more than likely to get through. And Moneygall and Upperchurch played out a draw in Dala. I'll be honest, I'll tell you, I told you that Templeogue Aero Gannacarty game is a must watch. This Moneygall Upperchurch game was far from a classic. It was lots of mistakes, an awful lot of wides, particularly for Upperchurch at times in that second half. Owen Duhan got a goal early on. Adam Hogan was hitting some of the frees. Owen Duhan is a really good free taker. Adam Hogan usually is a pretty good free taker as well, but he missed a couple, and you're just kind of thinking, and you could hear people in the stand saying, "Oh, young Duhan should be hitting them," that kind of thing, because he is a very good free taker. But yeah, lots of mistakes, lots of wides. 115 to 18 points, probably a fair result. I thought Conor Fahy looked very dangerous for Upperchurch anytime the ball came near him. He would have done the tip football panel this year as well. Real kind of fast runner with the ball, but his first touch and everything like that was on. Gavin Ryan missed a few long range frees. Just a lot of wides, a lot of stop start stuff. Not a classic by any means whatsoever. Shawnee Kennelly won some really hard balls late on in that game and won frees and things like that. Joe Fogarty always looks dangerous. He snapped a few lovely balls in front of the stand. But all in all, not a classic game really. But I think both of the teams will probably look back in the game and think, "Do you know what, we didn't play our best there at all, and we didn't get beaten, so it could be worse." But that's Moneygall's first game back up at the Seamus O'Reen level, and against one of the top seeded teams in the competition in Upperchurch Drumban, and they weren't beaten, so it's a pretty good result for Moneygall, no doubt. And I think, are we playing Upperchurch next? I think I saw the fixtures earlier, but they're on my phone. The phone has actually been used as the camera here, so I can't look at it. But so that's how Group 3 played out. So we are at the bottom of the table at the minute. So we have a bit of work to do there against Moneygall and Upperchurch in the next 2 games. Group 4 then, probably the most eye-catching result of the weekend. Killinall 124, St Mary's 11 points. Huge win for Killinall. Mark Stakelum was just causing havoc in that full forward line. He's a massive unit. He flicked one over the bar earlier in the game from a long ball coming in, and it was either him or Paddy Feehan who flicked the ball into the back of the net on the 26th minute. But 124 to 11 point win for Killinall. They led 1-9 to 10 points at half time. That was against a massive wind, and St Mary's only got 1 point in the second half, if I have that right. Yeah, so that is just crazy stuff, really. Bubbles made a class double save on the 34th minute. That was when the game was still close. Seamus Kennedy, as I have down there, scored Mary's last point on the 42nd minute, so that was their only score of the second half. As I said, Mark Stakelum was class. Bubbles made that double save. He scored a few frees, but his distribution from play and from puckhouse was brilliant. So huge win for Killinall there in that one. The other game in that group, Carrick Swan beat Clonakilty 118 to 16 points. This was a really close game. Clonakilty had a huge wind in the first half, and they led 12 points to 6. Keane O'Dwyer scored some class points in that first half. Brilliant goal from Aaron Dunn in the 37th minute. He scored 1-2 early on in the second half, and that was back to within 2. Clonakilty's goalie Costigan, as I have it, made a great save. Gavin O'Halloran made a run forward. That was a brilliant save by the goalkeeper. I'll get his first name, Willie Costigan. Brilliant save from him. Stephen Tobin got a few nice scores. He gave Carrickswan the lead on the 46th minute. Callum Lanigan was brilliant throughout on the frees. Really difficult day for free taking given the wind, but I thought he was very good. Clonakilty had some poor wides. Keane O'Dwyer missed a poor free there in the second half. Few more poor wides from other players. It was a 1-point game after 55 minutes, but the Swan finished strong to win the game, 118 to 16 points. So that is how the Premier Intermediate division went. So let's go to our predictions for that. I had Thurles to beat Sean Tracy's, which they did. I had Garton Who to beat Mine Temple Toohey, which they did. I had Borland to beat the Mines. That happened. I had Aerogan Carthy to beat Templeogue. That happened. I had Upperchurch to beat Moneygall. That finished up as a draw. I had Burgess to beat Ballina. That didn't happen. I had Killinall to beat St Mary's. That happened, and that was one I remember, if you remember from the preview, I was really unsure about. Excuse me. And I had Carrickswan to beat Clonakilty, which they did. So that is a good hit rate there in the Premier Intermediate. That is 6 out of 8. So that's pretty good. Excuse me, I need to cough again. So let's go down quickly then through the intermediate. So only one of these games is on Clubber. That was Portrush against Kappa White. Things to report from that game: it was Kappa White 31 points, Portrush 317. Conor Martin scored 9 points from play. He was unreal for Kappa White. I just have Willie Barry written down. What a class player he is. Just watching that game, his ball striking is unreal. He got some big scores. John Sheedy, as always, for Port, he got 2 goals. One was from a 21-yard free that I don't think anyone kind of expected him to go for, but he went for it up in Newport at the clubhouse end and buried it. Probably goal of the weekend is Colin Gleeson's goal for Portrush. Got the ball on the throw-in for the start of the second half, and he just took off down the middle of the field, brought it all the way kind of to the edge of the square and kind of roofed it into the back of the net. Incredible piece of play from him, and that was a big goal in the game. But Port were down to 14 early in the second half. Mark Jennery, who I mentioned was refereeing the Templeogue and Carthy game, something happened off the ball and he was shown a straight red card, which he wasn't happy about. So that was, they were down to 14. Kevin O'Halloran was in goals. He scored a few points. Massive puck out in that second half in particular for Portrush. But a big win for Kappa White there, 31 points to 317. The other game in that group was Skeena Rinky against Maw Rovers. Maw Rovers just up from the Junior A grade. Skeena Rinky won that game 220 to 17 points. In Group 2 then, Knockavilla with a big win over Ballingarry, 223 to 314. But Ballingarry scored 2 goals in injury time to put a bit of glass on the scoreboard, and they also scored a goal in the 56th minute of the game. So they were down 13 points with 5 minutes to go. So kind of a one-sided game, one-sided win for Knockavilla. Not a lot of people would have seen that coming. I certainly didn't. I would have went with Ballingarry to win that game. I put up an Instagram story about anything you want to mention. I should have put it up earlier in the day, so because I only got to see the first couple of replies. But one of them mentioned Dylan Walsh injury for Ballingarry. So maybe someone in the comments might be able to let us know what happened in that game, because Dylan Walsh was just so important for this Ballingarry team getting to the county final last year. So him being injured would be a huge loss to them. So he did start the game anyway. He was playing, but yeah, it was kind of noticeable when you're looking at the Ballingarry Twitter feed that there wasn't much mention of Dylan Walsh. So hopefully nothing too serious for him. The other game in that group was the 2 second teams of Clounty and Drummond. Clounty won 216 to 14 points. Group 3 then, Berserker 220 to 121 winners over Arvale Rovers. Berserker's goals came from Gary Ryan and Philip Austin. Oisin Larkin scored 10 points, 3 from play. Mike Keenan 3 from play for Arvale. Oren Jones scored 13 points, 4 of which were from play. The other game in Group 3 then was a huge result for Carrickdavins. They beat Newport 320 to 123. Newport obviously just down from the Premier Intermediate grade, and they lost their first game in the north to Berserker, and now they've been beaten by Carrickdavins in their first game in the county championship. Newport actually led by 6 points at half time, but 2 Patrick Harris goals and 1 from Billy Roach helped Davins to a big victory there. And a lot of the Davins crowd on Twitter very happy about that game, and why wouldn't they be? That's a huge win for them, 320 to 123. To Group 4 now, Golden Kilfeacle had a one-sided victory over Ballybacon Grange. I mentioned Golden, probably my favourites for the competition, and they did nothing to kind of dampen that expectation. They beat Ballybacon 325 to 15 points. I think it was a Padraig Dalton hat-trick. I was talking to John O'Shea down in the Rag. I think that's what he told me. That was on Saturday, he was telling me about. That was on Friday night, that game. I have Brendan Cummins 50 written down. 50 years of age playing goals for Ballybacon, which is class. I think he wants to play with his son Paul Cummins. He was on the minor panel this year, so he'll be of age to play with the Ballybacon intermediates next year. So I'm sure that's what Brendan's holding out for. The other game then in Group 4 of the Intermediate Championship, Kilsheelan Kilcash with a very big win over Shannon Rovers, 5-17 to 2-13. So that is a big result there for Kilsheelan, who are obviously motoring well. Didn't get to see who done the scoring in that game or anything like that. So let's run down through my predictions, how they went. I went with Capaway to beat Port. They did. I went with Skeena-Rinky. They won. I went with I went with Ballingarry to beat Knockavilla, but Knockavilla won that game. I did go with Clownty to beat Drum. That was a bit of a just throw a dart, a blind throw really. I wasn't really sure. I went with Berserker to beat Arvale Rovers. They did. I went with Newport to beat Davins. Davins got the upset there. I went with Golden Kilfeacle to beat Ballybacon, which they did. And I went with Kilsheelan to beat Shannon Rovers, which they did. That was one where I wasn't sure about. And I said that every time I backed against Shannon Rovers that they won. So I said as a test of the theory, I would go with Kilsheelan to see what would happen. So Shannon Rovers didn't do what they did of all last year, and that was every time I backed them to lose, they'd win. So they did lose against Kilsheelan. So let's see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 out of 8, pretty good hit rate. Did I get 6 out of 8? Yeah, did I get 6 out of 8 in the Premier Intermediate as well? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so 6 out of 8 in Intermediate, 6 out of 8 in Premier Intermediate, and 5 out of 8 in the Senior. So that is 17 out of 24. 17 out of 24. Not bad. Not bad. I'll take that for week 1. I think week 1 last year I got 9 out of 24. So 17 out of 24, we'll chalk that down. I'm pretty happy with that prediction. That's over what? That's about a 70% hit rate. So that's how the predictions went for round 1. And that pretty much sums up the podcast for this week. It went on far longer than I wanted to, 1 hour and 7 minutes. It's 10 minutes. I'm only going to get the second half of that minor game over in Kilcoma now. But yeah, a quick reminder again to like the video. Try and get up to 100 likes if you're listening to this far. If you're 1 hour and 7 minutes listening to me and you haven't liked the video, then I don't know what the story is. But yeah, it's been a really, really busy weekend of action. Really enjoyed it. Like the video, subscribe, all that stuff. And yeah, just I can't wait now for this week because I'm going away on holidays for a few days. It's been kind of all go for myself with Tipperary, getting to the All-Ireland and covering all that, which was great. Into the first round of the county championship, which was great as well. So I'm very much looking forward to a few days away in Faro for the weekend coming. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, really appreciative of all the support I've got across Twitter and Instagram, TikTok, and of course here on YouTube and Spotify as well. So massive thanks to everyone. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Just getting back into the flow of it. I wouldn't have done one of these review podcasts since like the county championship last year, so they can be a bit rambly. I'm here talking to myself in a room for over an hour, so that's just how it goes. But let me know what you thought. Anything I should have mentioned, let us know in the comments. And yeah, big weekend of action in Tipperary. We will be doing a preview podcast. I'm not back from Portugal till next Tuesday, so let's say Wednesday evening, maybe Wednesday evening slash next Thursday. We'll get a quick preview. That will be a quick 20-minute kind of podcast. I'll give my predictions for the round 2 games. So until then, have a good couple of weeks. And yeah, we'll catch up in just over a week's time to look ahead to round 2 of the Tipperary County Hurling Championships. But for the round 1 preview, I hope you've enjoyed it. And yeah, look after yourself. Bye for now.